Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be reviewing the most recent instalment in the Harry Potter franchise, Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald, or should I say, Disappointing Beasts and the Not So Many Crimes of Grindelwald. This is a spoiler review, so if you have not yet seen Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald, it is available to view in cinemas now, and will probably, no doubt, should be shortly available on DVD and Blu-ray. You can also read the screenplay. This is the screenplay for the first film, but you can also read the screenplay. It's available from W.H. Smith for half the price currently of £8.94. Half the price, which is of course £8.94, or presumably anywhere else for £16.99. I don't know how much it is in dollars, but I don't even know if you have it there because, of course, as per usual, because this channel is obviously British based, this is a British franchise, so I do not know much about the British, the American side of this. But yes, this review will contain spoilers for Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald. So, Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald. Now, I've seen a lot of hate for this film, and it really surprised me, but I have to say, do not go into this film expecting the latest version of, say, The Prisoner of Azkaban, because it's not that. But neither is it anywhere near as bad as some of the worst Harry Potter movies that I've seen. I mean, I personally have a personal distaste for Chamber of Secrets, for example, or The Half-Blood Prince, which I will draw many comparisons to The Crimes of Grindelwald, because this is essentially the Half-Blood Prince, the Fantastic Beasts version of The Half-Blood Prince, which I'll get to later. It's a good film, overall. It's just not what we were expecting. This is a common trend among movie creators at the moment, is to twist your expectations. So this movie very much does twist your expectations. This is not what you were expecting from the second movie in the franchise at all. That doesn't mean it's a bad film overall. It just means it's, as I would class The Last Jedi, an okay film. I have classed this film very much so as an okay movie. However, I can't completely praise this movie because there are, of course, some inevitable flaws. As with any movie, you can't really say any movie is perfect. I know that there is a lot of flaws for this movie, and probably a lot more flaws than most movies do that I have. And this movie is a good movie. It's enjoyable, and I hope it doesn't kill the franchise because it is overall a really enjoyable movie, and just because people are being negative about it doesn't mean you can't enjoy this movie too. Of course, if you do not like this movie, then that's your opinion. My opinion is that this movie is okay, so don't kill me, please. Please don't kill me. So what are the flaws of Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald? One of the biggest flaws of this movie is exactly the same flaw I would give Infinity War. In fact, if I was honest, I'd probably give Infinity War the same score I've given this movie, because it is exactly the same situation, except Crimes of Grindelwald suffers from something that it shouldn't be doing at the moment, which I'll get onto later. The flaw is, of course, that it is overcrowded. Avengers Infinity War, as I mentioned, suffers this problem massively, and I feel like Avengers Infinity War deserves to be overcrowded in some respects because of all the amazing characters it's built up over 10 years. This movie is a sequel to a movie that came out in 2016. Yeah, I'm not overly fond of Fantastic Beasts in the first place. I'm not, I don't exactly praise it. I very much prefer the earlier Harry Potter movies, like Philosopher's Stone and Prisoner of Azkaban, and some of the later ones too. I quite like Order of the Phoenix. I mean, who doesn't like Order of the Phoenix and Deathly Hallows Part 2? When Fantastic Beasts originally hit the theatres, I did not go see it, the first one. I didn't think it was going to be very good, and it wasn't the greatest movie. I think I did enjoy this movie more than I enjoyed the first one, and here we go, I'm going to get killed for this, but yeah. I did like this movie more than the first one. It's much grittier, it's much darker than the last one. And it's just such a nicer film, and there's so many better moments that I'll get onto that I loved about this film. But yeah, the problem with this movie is overcrowded, and it does not have any right to be so. Lita Lestrange and Theseus Scamander, and even to a certain extent Gellert Grindelwald, should not really be in this movie that much. I think this movie should have focused more on Credence's plot and maybe finding Gellert Grindelwald rather than focusing on Gellert Grindelwald. I think if I was them, I would have had in this movie Queenie, Jacob, Nagini, Credence, Tina, Newt, and possibly Dumbledore. Maybe Theseus, not any of the other characters. The Lestrange plotline didn't really amount to anything, and as much as it does in the end, kind of, I don't think that was really necessary. We didn't really need to know that. It's just, that was very much a waste of 5 minutes, because he says, oh, you're Lestrange, you're Corvius Lestrange, and he's not. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, you could go away with Lita and the other guy, the token black guy. I'm just going to call him token black guy because he has no other purpose than being a token black guy in this movie, to prove to the fans that J.K. Rowling is doing diversity at long last, when really this movie is just one pointing and laughing at the diverse community. It's like, almost, but not there yet, you know. It's not as diverse as you'd expect it to be. You'd think J.K. Rowling would have learned by now, but clearly not. It is overcrowded and it has no right to do so. It doesn't need to be overcrowded. I think Jude Law's Dumbledore and Gellert Grindelwald should have been limited to cameos. They did not need to be a central part of this movie. I think Grindelwald's plot wasn't essential to this movie. It should have been focusing on Credence's parentage, in my opinion. And that's, yeah, I guess. The characters in this movie I did not like, though. Despite the fact that I want this movie to be about Credence, was Credence. He was very boring and very bad. I don't know, I didn't really like him in the first movie either. He just seemed like a wimpy thing. A wimpy kid. It's the wizarding, he's like the wizarding version of Dora of a wimpy kid, really. I mean, I feel sorry for him and all in the first movie, but really, it's just a bit soppy and overly soppy. I mean, I know I'm not exactly one to talk about soppiness. I mean, I am a very soppy person, but he's soppy soapy. He's soapy soppy. But yeah, he's not very good in this at all. And I think that's mainly down to the fact that it is overcrowded and there isn't enough time to stretch out these characters. I think many of the characters here feel more like cameo appearances. I mean, it's a really big problem. It's like it tried to be another Infinity War. It saw this success. You'd finished by then, but it's like it's seen the success of Infinity War and knew about the fact that all these characters were coming together in Infinity War, and they were trying to do an Infinity War here. But it doesn't work. It just isn't right. I mean, sure, I think Lita Lestrange should have had a different plotline personally. I think she should have come across later, because I do like Lita as a character, which we'll get to later. But Credence is very boring and he needs more time to be stretched out. That's one of the reasons why I said this movie should be more about Credence, is because it needed to stretch out more about him and his story rather than Gellert Grindelwald and getting his followers and all that. So yeah, that was a bit annoying. Nagini, another one. She's compelling and mysterious, and she's a great character, and I was really looking forward to going into this movie. But she gets nothing to do, and it's so annoying. It's like one big tease, particularly at the end, where it's found that she doesn't go with Credence at the end of the movie, with Grindelwald. She just, you know, sort of wanders off into the background, and I hope she gets more to do in the Fantastic Beasts 3, which I hope there is, because I am enjoying this series, even though this one is probably, although better than the last one in my opinion, isn't that much better. Really, I was only here for the Nephilis, let's face it, you know. But yeah, Nagini, she's compelling, she's mysterious, but doesn't get enough to do at all. The location, and this is one of the biggest flaws I have with the last one. The location should feel more of a big deal, otherwise, why are you there? Harry Potter is essentially a British franchise, and in this film we do get to spend more time in England and Europe, and it's more of a home, you know, and it's limited to like nostalgia really. This film does feel very nostalgic, particularly at the Hogwarts bits, which we'll get to in a minute, but it does feel very much like it's just there. It's like they're there. Like, these movies could be done in any location really. Like, what's the point in making a big hype of it unless you're going to make a big deal out of some big scene? in the movie. I mean, this film visits 3 locations. New York. It starts in New York. Obviously, Grindelwald's in the prison, Makusa's prison. I don't know if it's just Makusa, but you know, it starts off in New York, goes to the UK, then it goes to France. I mean, what was the point in France? Why did they need to go to France apart from the fact that Credence was born there? I mean, Credence could be born anywhere. You know, it's just, it doesn't like at least have. Like, they made such a big deal of, you know, the Eiffel Tower in the corner that you can't see it, but sorry, someone fell over. It made such a big deal of the Eiffel Tower, and I thought, oh, maybe there'll be a big battle on the Eiffel Tower between Grindelwald or something. I mean, imagine how much cooler the final sequence would have been if it had taken place on top or underneath or on top of, well, underneath and then goes up to the top of the Eiffel Tower. Imagine if their meeting had taken place in the Eiffel Tower. Wouldn't that have just been so much better than the scene we got at the end, which sure was amazing and one of the best parts of the movie. I think this movie starts very well and ends very well. It's just the bits in the middle that the jam that doesn't glue the film quite together very well. I mean, it just doesn't feel like the location is needed. I mean, the film series could happen just in the UK, really. I mean, why do you really want a travel license? Apart from the only reason for it to go away is so Newt can go somewhere else because he wants to write his book series, which is, ironically, really the Fantastic Beasts franchise, although it's based off the novel. The novel's out, so, well, it's not a novel, it's a textbook. The book's out now, I think. They mentioned in the film that the book was out. So, why has it still got the Fantastic Beasts label? Why not just call it The Crimes of Grindelwald? I mean, it's one heck of a title, really, when you think about it. Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald. It's like, Wreck-It Ralph 2, Ralph Breaks the Internet. It's a bit long of a title. Another flaw I have with this movie is Newt. He's very meh in this film. He doesn't get much to do at all, which is kind of annoying, you know, because he's the central character. You expect him to have more to do, and when he is doing stuff, he just feels stupid and silly and sort of. Eddie Redmayne was one of the best parts of the last movies, and he's sort of taken a down step in this movie in certain scenes. So particularly with Tina, I don't know what to think of Newt and Tina, really. And he doesn't get enough to do. None of these characters get enough to do because of the fundamental problem that this movie is way too overcrowded. I saw that poster, you know, the first poster they released, like the moving poster, like it was from the Daily Prophet or something, where they all move and turn into each other and so on. And I thought, Jesus, what is this? Infinity War? That was the first thing that came to my mind. Infinity War. This movie is the Infinity War of the Wizarding World. It's just too many characters. Oh, I could go on forever about how this movie is overcrowded. It's such a big cast, and none of the characters get fully explored. The only characters I think who get decently explored are Queenie and Jacob and their relationship. I think that was a great move, actually. I feel like Queenie and Mike Kowalski gets enough to do. Is it Mike? Yeah, I think it's Mike. Yeah, Mike Kowalski get enough to actually do. Or am I thinking of Monsters Inc? I don't know. I don't know what he's called anymore. Leave me alone. The Baker. I'm just going to call him the Baker. I think they're the only ones that get enough to do, and their story is fully explored, as well as Newt and Lita's one when they were younger. Lita, although her character story isn't what I would have necessarily done with her, she's still a great character and she does get enough to do. I'm hoping that Theseus does return because he was a good character. He just didn't get enough to do at all. None of these characters got enough to do. In the middle with Lita, as I mentioned, probably she's such brilliantly performed by 2 brilliant actresses. The person who plays the present day Lita was a great actress, as well as the younger Lita, which is more. She has a great relationship with younger Newt in the fantastic Hogwarts scenes, and I mean the truly superb moments in Hogwarts, particularly the flashbacks. It's just such a nice thing to go back to Hogwarts with all those moments with McGonagall. I know a lot of people, there's a bit of controversy about McGonagall being in this movie, but she was great in this movie. I really like the fact that she was in this movie. The nice flashback scenes to doing Defense of the Dark Arts. It brings me back to my favourite of the movies, you know, the best one, Prisoner of Azkaban. It's great. So yeah, I'm in the middle with her because she doesn't get enough to do, and she seems very thin and underdeveloped by the end of the movie. I noticed in the trailers there are a lot of scenes that don't get used, particularly of Lisa Lestrange. There's that scene at the ball. I mean, what's going on in that scene? I really want to know now. There's loads of scenes, like in the first trailer in particular, where he's almost like completely different scenes, completely different movie, you know? So yeah. Oh, and her dialogue was great, and her character... I just wish... I was particularly considering she gets killed off at the end. Her sacrifice, by the way. So why couldn't she do what... One of the things that bugged me the most is she didn't do what Nicola Flamel did. If she'd done what Nicola Flamel did and actually died in that situation, I might have forgiven them for killing her off and not doing what I would have personally done with her. But it's such a shame. She had such potential to be a great character. And I hope the Lestranges get explored more, because obviously we want to find out where would Bellatrix fit in with all this. I believe Bellatrix is her sister. I'm not sure, but yeah, I did like that. I like this entire movie. I like this movie really, but it's just wrong time really. Yeah. Now we move on to the positives. So what were the positives of this movie? As I've mentioned, it has a great opening scene, really tense. I love the music. The scenes with New York, it's a really nice ancestral chase where he's silent but deadly. He's actually really quite... You really get a sense of how threatening Grindelwald is. And Grindelwald in this movie is compelling, he's a great villain, and he has motives that really make you question who's doing the right thing. And by the end of the movie, I think not since Captain America Civil War has it felt so divisive that you physically have to choose a side. I mean, I honestly don't really know anymore which side I should be on. I mean, it's built up in that way. I mean, am I with Queenie? I mean, he doesn't outrightly say anything wrong with Muggles. He just says he wants... I mean, like, as long as he doesn't suppress Muggles or anything, I'd be fine with him just having a wizard coming out, I guess. You know, coming out to the human society. I mean, maybe they would all go bananas at first, but... I mean, surely we warmed with them by now. I mean, like, particularly if we had stories about wizards and, like, Harry Potter. Harry Potter is very unique in the fact that it is the only way... and medium that wizards have been portrayed, witches of wizards have been portrayed, witches certainly, witches in particular, have been portrayed as a good thing. They're normal, nice people. I do feel sorry for them, because in this world there's no Harry Potter books, so there isn't really any good witches or wizards in the world. But I would like to think that now, particularly in the age that we're in, of representation particularly, that people would warm to them more than they would have in other years to come. You know, the other years that we've had, and other decades where people were more prejudiced. Obviously, those years are far off, because at this point they're still segregating black people, which you don't really see in the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I was quite surprised, quite intrigued to see if they would do that, but they didn't. So, you know, I don't know what's going on with that. Grindelwald, he's a great villain, compelling, great motives. I love the scenes. I love the fact that his best weapon is his mouth. I think in the end, he will make a great politician. I think he is very political. I think this whole movie is by far one of the most political of all the Harry Potter films to date. Dumbledore, he's fun, he's charismatic, he's charming, he's mysterious. I hope we get to see more of him, particularly that great big fight that Hermione mentions in Deathly Hallows between Grindelwald and Jude Law. Two lovers turned upon each other. Also, I would like to see that relationship built on between Grindelwald and Dumbledore, because it sounds very interesting. I think the relationship between Queenie and Jacob really works here. I like how it develops from being under the influence of a spell and them breaking up, and then when she sees him, she wants him back. He really loves her still. I mean, she really loves him still. And then she's drawn to Grindelwald because she promises her that he can make their love real. I think, despite what people are saying about this twist that she joins Gellert Grindelwald, it does make sense. And I think it will be an interesting thing later on down the line in the Fantastic Beasts films. I can see why Gellert Grindelwald would want her and manipulate her to make her join her team. Well, his team is the dark side, and it's very reminiscent. I don't know why people are complaining about it, because No one complained about when they did it in Star Wars. She joins the dark side because she loves someone, and it makes sense. It really does. I don't know why people are making a fuss about it, because it really works. And out of all the stories in this film, with so many stories within it, was held with so much in this film, it's the one that makes the most sense to me. And it made me cry when she splits off from Jacob. It's heartbreak when she joins Grindelwald and goes through that circle of fire at the end of the film. The fantastic VFX. I mean, what were you expecting? I mean, this is a Fantastic Beasts film. Personally, I think Warner Brothers are quite good at VFX, really. They've done a great job just with the DC VFX, I think, in certain aspects as well. I think they don't get enough credits. I mean, the beasts are amazing. The baby Nifflers were adorable. The Kelpine creature, that was nice. That looked really good. As well as the Japanese lion dragon type thing. That was nice. There was a nice scene with Tina there, although, where she remembers what Newt did to get the beast back in the suitcase. I think that's one of the best things that Tina did. And really the only thing I can remember Tina really doing in that entire film. She doesn't get much to do at all in this film. I think she suffers the most out of all the characters. Which is a shame, because she was alright in the first film, even though I didn't like her that much. But, you know, this is by far the greatest directed film in any of the Wizarding World films at all, of all of them. David Yates is really on his A-game here. Those shots of Hogwarts, the smoke, the creatures, the cast, it's all wonderfully directed. And they use Paris to their advantage here. They've got some lovely shots of the Eiffel Tower and other parts of Paris, particularly the Eiffel Tower. There's some great shots of Eiffel Tower in this film. And the fire circle and that fight scene, the director really makes it work so much better than it could have done. I mean, this film was made 10 times better than the first one, in terms of that. And that's probably due to the fact the budget probably got increased with this film. It is a great... Out of sequels go, it's probably better than the first one in that respect, certainly, if not overall. The great sets, the French Ministry was quite nice, the way the pillars of the data banks of personal data was nice. And the whole design felt very Parisian, and it made, like, the Macoons, it feels very American, and the Ministry of Magic feels very British. It encapsulates that very French aspect of the Ministry for them. It's great. I love all the nice frosted window effect that's so prominent on buildings like the Louvre and so on in Paris. It just works so well with the atmosphere and location. Theseus Scamander, I really just put him on here because I feel so sorry for him, because there's a scene at the end of the movie where Lita says, I love you, and it's not to him, and he thinks it's to him, but it's actually to Newt, and I feel even more sorry for him because I don't think Newt even realises it's before Lita sacrifices herself. I feel so sorry for him, and he did get a lot to do. He was a great character, I'll give him that, and I did like him. I hope we get to see more of him in further films. But yeah, he's a nice character. I don't know if we needed him in this movie, but he was one of the better off characters of this film. I have to say Hogwarts, the scenes with Hogwarts were one of the best parts of the movie. It really shows that J.K. Rowling can encapsulate that world much better than any other world that she's done, because I think one of the things that tips this over across past the first Fantastic Beasts film, in my opinion, is the Hogwarts scenes. They really work within the film and the concept. And I really like the fact they put them in, even if I do think it was a bit early to bring back Hogwarts and that they should have focused on Credence's story rather than Lita and Newt's story here. But I did like the scenes, the little cameo from Minerva McGonagall, although people are complaining about it, I still liked it. She was very funny. The Office, the throwbacks to Prisoner of Azkaban were nice, as well with the booklet, and seeing Lita's booklet was interesting. And of course Newt's booklet was hilarious. We saw that in the trailer though. But it was nice to have that sense of coming home, very much a homecoming feel to it, of the film. So yeah, and the final showdown in the sort of graveyard bit where Grindelwald gets his followers. It really shows that Grindelwald is really turning the tables here. He's doing some interesting things where obviously one of his followers wanted to get her wand out just in case she was in danger, but the aura killed her, and he uses that to his advantage. He says, we're not the ones using violence, they are. And that was an interesting point, because it's one of those points where you get with Gellert Grindelwald is he right? Is he right about this? Should the Wizarding World come out? I do actually genuinely think that they should. Particularly in today's day and age, if it was in this world that we live in today, I think they would be accepted and loved, probably, and accepted as one another. I mean, there would be a few people who wouldn't agree with them. I mean, there's always going to be that kind of aspect to it. But I do think that they would get accepted nowadays, and maybe not back then, because obviously there was a big issue with racism and so on. But I do think that, particularly with the Second World War coming, it would have been good for them to be able to, if Wizards had come out then, they could have stopped it. I do agree on that point. If the Wizards had come out, maybe there would have been something to distract Hitler, or maybe it would have made it worse, who knows. But I think the Wizards did need to step in at some point, because otherwise, I mean, they saw the destruction of the last war, and they did nothing. And they know there's going to be another one, they're not going to do anything again. So in that respect, I do agree with Gellert Grindelwald. In many ways, I do agree with both, on both sides. I'm very much like Newt, I don't want to pick a side, but obviously Newt does at the end of the film. Although he doesn't explicitly say what it is, but he doesn't step into the fire ring, so it's pretty much assumed he chose the other side. Now I'm going to talk about some other points about this movie that aren't necessarily a positive or a negative. One of this is that it's a growing trend. This is a very common type of movie these days, where there are some very political issues that sometimes get called out on, tokenism and so on, and sometimes do not. In this case, I feel that it has been called out on unfairly, as other movies have done things like this, if not worse, and not got called out on. I don't agree that with a critical fan base that will stand by Avengers Infinity War or the last Avengers Infinity War, or not come out and not defend this, because it's done nothing worse or made any different story plot errors than the Avengers Infinity War. If anything, this is the Avengers Infinity War of the Wizarding World. So yeah, it is kind of a big deal and quite a bad, maybe necessarily a bad thing, because it is quite early, but it doesn't mean that you should say that this film is a bad film. I mean, I look at the Rotten Tomatoes scores, maybe a solid 70 or 75 would have been, I think 60 to 70 would have been good for this movie, because that's about where I would place it. Personally, I would place it around 70%. It has flaws, sure enough, but it's no worse than Avengers Infinity War, which in my opinion I would give the same score, because it is the same movie in effect, really. In my opinion, it's got so many subplots and so many characters, a compelling villain, a compelling story, in fact. And those are all things that I would view Infinity War on, and I would give the Infinity War the same score as Crimes of Grindelwald. I know a lot of people probably hate me for giving it the same score, but yeah, less so. Fans have called out on Star Wars: The Last Jedi, on the blatant feminism, and there is an air of feminism in this movie, certainly, very much an air of feminism, certainly coming from Lisa Strange, and critics are calling out on this, and fans are not, which is interesting to me, because critics were all too quick to defend The Last Jedi, but not this, which strikes me as well, because I do like Lisa Strange as a character, and I did wish that we would have got more from her, but we didn't, so it's kind of sad, but you know, what can we do, really? So yeah, that was very interesting. It also kind of reminded me of, and it's not, I think this instalment is better than instalments like Deathly Hallows Part 1, Half-Blood Prince, and in my opinion, I know a lot of people will kill me for this, Chamber of Secrets. I don't think these movies are anywhere near as good as this movie. Well, I think Half-Blood Prince is on par, because this is essentially, in my opinion, the Half-Blood Prince of the Fantastic Beasts franchise, which is odd because we still have 2 more movies before the penultimate one. You'd expect the 4th one to be this one, essentially. This is the one that I would class as the 4th one in terms of story, and then focus more on Credence's story in this one, and the Gellert Grindelwald aspect in the 4th one. I didn't think Gellert Grindelwald should have got as much attention as he did, although I do like him. I think his time should have been sacrificed for other characters in this respect, and he should have been a more shadowy figure in the background like Tom Riddle was in Chamber of Secrets. That is one aspect of Chamber of Secrets that I like. That Voldemort isn't a central part of the story, it kind of is, but not as much, and it's not Voldemort, it's Tom Riddle. This is definitely miles better than, in my opinion, Chamber of Secrets or Deathly Hallows Part 1. I just don't enjoy it, and it is, to me, better than Fantastic Beasts. So I don't know why people are calling out on the mistakes in this film, but not in those films. Also, it's also very, it also comes to mind that maybe this franchise, like many franchises, is being pulled out too long. Did we really need the Fantastic Beasts saga? I'm not a big fan of it so far. I mean, I liked it. I thought the last one was okay. I would probably rank this one slightly better, but you know, it's not that much better, and it is still a mess, a bit of a mess, and a bit, you know, bit all over the place in certain aspects, but it also does have that many great things about this movie that I do like. I do think, the one thing I'm certain about this movie, even if they do want to carry on the Wizarding World franchise, and I do think this is an interesting story to tell, maybe not over 5 movies though. I think they've taken more than they could handle. If this had been a trilogy, I think this would have worked in terms of its placement, but one thing I am certain about this franchise is that J.K. Rowling needs to let go. She needs to let the next generation deal with it. I think she should stay on as a producer, just not as a screenwriter. She's got too much control of these movies, and she does not know how to navigate the visual medium as well as she does books. And it's very telling, because there are certain scenes where, obviously, like Gellert Grindelwald's greatest weapon is his tongue. That's the kind of thing you'd expect from a book, not from an supposedly action-packed film. And there is a lot of action-packed in the trailer, it's just you see all of the action-packed in the trailers. There isn't much action that isn't seen in the trailers. I mean, there's literally 2 big action scenes, the one at the start and one at the end. There isn't really any action in between, it's just a jam sandwich, essentially, except the jam is not the thing you want. It's just, you know, I expected more action scenes. I saw those 2 action scenes, right? Oh yeah, they must be hiding something that happens in the middle or something, some big chase or something. I did expect a big chase, and we didn't get one. We did get some fantastic scenes in the French Ministry of Magic though, which were pretty close to action scenes. I didn't really like the cats, although their gag about them turning into little tiny cute cats was adorable. But yeah, J.K. Rowling needs to like supervise it and all the way that, and she still gets loads of money for just doing that. But she does need to step down the reins, or give down the reins to someone else. The plot twists, I know, Credence Dumbledore. It's just so bloody unbelievable. I'm sorry, but there's no way. I'm sorry. He looks nothing like any of the Grindelwald, the Dumbledores. Any of them, none of them. He doesn't even in character. It's like oh, J.K. Rowling thought at the end of the screenplay, it's like, oh my god, we need an epic twist to end this film on. She thought, oh my god, Credence is Dumbledore's nephew / brother / undefined family member. I mean, it's just ridiculous, and the whole that Credence would be on the same boat as Corvius is just ludicrous. I simply do not believe that Credence is related to Dumbledore. One thing that does intrigue me is if it was Grindelwald and Dumbledore's son. This would be interesting because it would explain how Grindelwald knows about him. I mean, it'd be interesting to know how they deal with that. I think he's certainly more like Grindelwald in character, personally. I think he's a mix of the two, really, in character. I guess you could say in character they're related. Also, it depends, if it was Grindelwald and Dumbledore's son, of course there would have to be someone to carry this child. So obviously that would explain why he doesn't necessarily look like either two of them. And obviously at the time, I don't know, it depends. Well, I'm sure it all will be revealed. I love that scene where Gellert Grindelwald gives him his wand and he shoots it over the onto causes an avalanche, and that scene with Queenie, she says a great line. She's like, he's not ready yet. So it's nice. I can see why he wanted her. He can read Credence's mind. She can read what he's thinking. I think that was definitely a good thing. Again, the Queenie joins Grindelwald. It was believable. It makes sense. It was well executed and made me cry. So overall, my thoughts are this is a good movie. It's just too much too soon. Great VFX, direction is great, and when I listened to the soundtrack back afterwards, although it wasn't as prominent in the film, it's still great. It gives that great, it adds to that tension, particularly right off the bat in the start, the real atmospheric feeling of the entire film. I listened to that soundtrack walking down a dark street and it was really sinister. But yeah, direction was great, it really added to that as well. J.K. Rowling has too much on her hands and she needs to let go. Either write or produce, preferably produce, because I think she would be good at that. Great opening and great end, but the filling is just poor, and I love Queenie and Jacob. So what is the score I would give this film? I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. Would probably give that same score to Infinity War, and probably a 7 out of 10 for the first Fantastic Beasts movie, to give you a bit of context there. So it is pretty much on par with that, and it's also on par with episodes of Doctor Who, if you hadn't noticed. There are a lot of parallels you could draw to this in Doctor Who. I think there are a lot of political moments about this that you could draw from Doctor Who, and maybe dragging on too long is another thing with Doctor Who as well. So yeah, overall 7 out of 10. 7.5 out of 10, sorry. I do hope they make another Fantastic Beasts. I really want to see where this film's going. I know this will have the lowest debut for a Wizarding World film of all time, so, you know, but I really hope they do make another one, because I really did like this film. I thought it was better than the last one, even though most people don't agree with me. So I really do hope they make another one. Fantastic Beasts 3, you know, hopefully. So yeah, thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe down below. And yeah, thanks. I really wanted to make this movie, so film, video, you know. So I'm really happy that I got to do this. I wasn't sure if I was going to, so yeah. So thanks for watching and goodbye.